Hello and welcome to the basic Fusion 360 tutorial. Today we're going to cover basic functions, how to use Fusion 360, different planes, basic shapes, extrusion, as well as making holes. These are the first, primary steps to making anything in Fusion 360, and you should be able to build upon these basics very easily. First, to start off, as soon as you open Fusion 360, we can click in the top left here, press File, and New Design. This will, of course, open a new design. Now, to zoom in and out, you can use your scroll wheel. A mouse is recommended. We can scroll in. Of course, as we scroll in, the grid becomes smaller, so there's more squares. You see, as we zoom out, there's larger squares. To move around, you can press your scroll wheel to just regularly pan around, and then to pivot, you can press Shift and your scroll wheel, and we can move around our different axes like this. We can also use this cube in the top right to pivot, and this green dot is our pivot point. It's what we're pivoting around at the moment. You see, as we move and we pivot, our pivot point changes, and this is very helpful when building your objects. To start off with, we can go to the top left and press Create, and we can press Box. Now these are your different planes. So this would be your side, most likely. This is your bottom, and this is also another side, or it could be the back, either of these, depending on how you're building your project. So we can start by picking this plane, which is the bottom one, and now we've chosen it. We can press Shift, scroll wheel to move around. Now that we've moved around, we can choose our starting point, and let's say we want to make a cube. So instead of eyeballing and trying to get to 1 inch using the grid, which is possible and doable, we can also use the measurements. So let's say we want a 1 inch cube. So we press 1, tab, 1, locked in. Then we can press enter. Now that we pressed enter, one sec. There we go. Now that I've pressed enter, it's now making us choose our height or width, depending on what plane you're looking at and what object you're making. So for this purpose, we're making a cube, so we can press 1. Now this is a 1 by 1 by 1 cube. Enter. Now we have a cube. We can look around. Alright, and that controlling of the height, what we just did for 1 inch upwards, can also be called extrusion. So we can pick a face. Let's say we want to pick this face. We click it and press E, or there's also an extrude button. We press E, and now it lets us extrude, as in pull or push backwards. And we can also do this. We can add an inch. We can subtract an inch. There will be nothing left. Or we can subtract half an inch. Now when I press enter, it's half an inch smaller. Alright. And then the last bit is creating a hole. There is a hole feature that we can use. We would choose a face, we can move around the hole, change the sizes along the right here, or we could disregard this entirely and we can make a hole through extrusion. So we can pick, for example, a cylinder. Let's say we pick this face and we decide to make half an inch hole. As we can see, it's 0.05 height And if you remember earlier from extrusion, we can also push inwards. This pushing inwards, when combined with another object, actually takes away from that object. So let's say we have this circle and we decide to go back 0.7 inches, which is larger than the cube. Right, we can make it negative 0.5, which is the size of the cube. When you see red, it means that it's taking away. So if we press enter and move around, you'll see we've created a hole. There are, of course, different shapes: spheres, coils, pipes, even freehand shapes. And we'll get into that in the next tutorial. Alright, thank you for watching, and hopefully this covered the basics of Fusion 360 for you.